Hey guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Advisory Board podcast. I've got a good friend of mine with me today, Russ Burnett. He's the CEO founder of Online Image. Russ, say hi to everybody.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, guy, I want to tell you why I've got Russ with me today, guys. One, Russ is one of the smartest people in franchising. I can say that he can't. Uh, and he's been highly involved. I mean, Online Image has been around for about 15 years. It's one of the highest, I'd say the highest tech marketing firms I've ever engaged with across any industry. And like genuinely surprised me when years ago when I first met him and he showed me what he did, I was like, whoa, you're years ahead of everybody else with some of the stuff you're doing. But he's been leveraging AI since 2011, guys. 2011. And yeah, that was the right date. It wasn't 2021. It was a decade before most of y'all even thought about AI. So I thought there's a reason why we should have him come because there are a lot of pundits out there that are talking about AI like they know it, but they're just reading all the summary emails that come out from Ben or whatever every single day. It's not legit. So I wanted to bring someone who's a real expert and let's talk about ways that we can leverage AI in marketing. But before I do, I got to tell you a few things about Russ. So you got to get to know this guy. Lives in Utah. He's a dad. He's been in the industry for 15 years or so, running this company. But he's also like their organization. They've got specific parts of their business model that are AI tools, like Leashed AI, and you also have to know he's a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. So you know, by the time you hear this podcast, you may need to send him some condolences or congratulatory emails. You never know. We'll see what happens at Super Bowl Sunday. So, Russ, tell us a little more about you. Welcome again to the show.
Thank you, and go Chiefs. No, yeah, we've always had a different way of looking at things, and I think in a lot of my bios, people refer to me as a mad scientist, but I was just doing what we are now back then. That's the only thing. It's really, really funny because I was sharing with Dave just before this, just showing him a presentation that I took into State Farm Insurance in 2011, where they thought I was totally insane to even suggest that we would use AI technologies to help them prospect, to help them find better communication methods, and then to help them convert more business. And so, yeah, it's been something that we've been doing for quite a while. We found that a lot of our clients for the last 10, 15 years haven't even cared to know about it. And so little did they know, a lot of our amazing results that we've had are based on AI in the background.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, let's talk about this from the perspective of the marketing space. Like this is rapidly changing. People becoming aware of AI is accelerating its adoption. It's accelerating the creativity in the market of how people are trying to leverage it now. But what would you say are the key things that are shifting in the marketplace right now that might make people want to think about using AI?
I mean, AI is an amazing tool, and with the development of things like ChatGPT and Bard, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to use Google's Bard, but it's actually a really, really cool system as well. When you look at some of these systems and their ease of access is what's really changed. I mean, to be able to just go on and ask very specific questions. I had it correct one of my Microsoft Excel equations the other day by just simply saying, "Here's my equation. What's wrong with it? Here's what I'm trying to do," and it spit out the correct equation, threw it in there, and my day went on like nothing else. I've banged my head against a keyboard for days trying to figure out some of those equations. And so, yeah, just its ease of use really adds a lot of capabilities for all of us to start to utilize.
Yeah, I love it. Well, so there are a couple of areas I think you and I chatted about this too before, but where would you say right now, if you're a savvy marketer that's trying to really get the best results, best ROI on your effort, what are some key areas people should be considering leveraging the power of AI in their marketing stack?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of people are utilizing AI for writing right now, and I want to throw a little caution to that one because that's not something that we've ever fully believed in AI writing. We always have had a human element to our AI writing. We know that there's it is starting to become more and more easy to detect the difference between true, like pure AI versus AI giving us some really creative context and ideas, and then us kind of massaging those to be more human sounding. And so, utilizing AI in content writing is a huge, huge opportunity for people to start just using it, cautiously. I think competitive analysis is one that is a really great setup. One of our very first AI tools is just simply a competitive analysis tool. It takes the top 20 results on Google and it gives us an identification of what they all have in common, so we know what our websites need to have prior to building them and have a really good idea of how to get there. Well, with ChatGPT, you can actually have it do it now. And so all this millions of dollars of technology that we built of kind of been made a little bit easier with some of these new additions to
if,
AI.
if people know how to use them right? Because it's, I mean, the beauty of that is you guys have track record and experience and full tech stack behind it. Where I could go in and say, if I'm not writing my prompt correctly, I might not get the right results.
Right.
That's it. Really comes down to your skill in the prompt writing at that point.
It really does. Actually, I had somebody talk to me about, and I did a little training for their teams on how to effectively use AI and get the most out of it. And if you've ever seen, there's a video on YouTube. It's called "How to Make a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich." It's a father and his two kids,
Mhm.
and he's making the children write out on a piece of paper how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he is following it verbatim. So, they say, stick the knife in the butter or the peanut butter. They're just dropping the knife in the peanut butter, wipe it on the bread. He's picking up the whole bottle of peanut butter and wiping it across the bread because they weren't clear to scoop the peanut butter out.
Yeah.
That's the best training you can take for utilizing AI. AI
Mhm.
is like an 11-year-old that knows everything. And if you're not 100% literal, covering every single little dot, it's going to try to find something to get away with.
Yeah, and it feels like that, but it's really just doing exactly what you said, right?
It is
It
totally.
cannot intuit context. Like you have to give it context, right? That's funny. We'll have to watch that with my kids. That'd be an entertaining video.
It's
Um,
super.
but it's true. Well, like even programmers, coders, like it's the same thing. The code does exactly what you told it to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
For years, we've been using that video to train our teams on how to write notes to one another within the organization because you've got to have clear context. And if you're on the other side reading it, you're just like, there's all this space here. What am I supposed to do? So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, good training tip for your teams, guys, to improve that inter-team communication as well without AI. But we'll get back to that. You'd mentioned content development. We got to talk about that, right? Because everyone thinks that that's the coolest thing since sliced bread. Generating ideas is something that you talked about earlier. Like that,
yeah.
it's like that you can ideate faster with AI than we ever before. Give us some examples. Like, how are you using AI to create new ideas and to brainstorm, Russ?
Yeah, totally. I mean, outside of content, because our writers do have just recently, and we only gave them permission to start using AI in the last 2 months to actually start creating more of the concepts around what they're writing. Before it was just idea creation. But other ways we're starting to use it for content creation is we've gone into some unique plans in the future with video production and working with franchisees and being able to work on large scales with franchisees. We utilized AI to come up with our initial script of a couple, who was having coffee in their bed in the morning after skipping their home inspection, and their ceiling starts leaking. And she's like, "Oh, Kyle, why did you go through and skip our home inspection to get a Deer Valley ski pass?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll call Pillar to Post home inspectors." And it just kind of leads into it. But really, the foundation of that script was just simply asking AI, "How would you describe a couple in bed having a quiet morning cup of coffee?" And there's my script, right? It gives you an idea of where to start. And then, obviously tying it into what you're using it for, tying it into a home inspection, tying it into a problem by skipping a home inspection. Those are all things that from a human level, we have to be creative on. And that's where our job as marketers now is. It's being creative, utilizing tools to come up with the ultimate creativity.
Right. But it still requires like, I mean, let's talk. There are some downsides to this, right? Like, for example, and we chatted about this before, but like I can pretty much spot without even a lot of effort when someone's used Chat GPT to generate content.
Yeah.
Email content, it's so easy to tell. I'm like, that's crap. Or you just have terrible writers. But like I get so many dumb emails now, I'm like, Chat GPT, spam, spam, spam. So but there it's if you don't mind, like I'm just going to monologue for a second here. Like in the language industry, this is where I came from before I came to franchising, and I spent quite a few years in it. We were building NLP models like decades ago, right? And so the whole industry shifted where everyone was freaking out, like, oh, machine translation is going to take over all these translators. Millions of them around the world are going to lose their jobs. Not even close, because even as good as it got, the machine translation was never as good as a human translator. But what it could do is it could do 80% of the work. And then we did a lot of PEMT or post edit of machine translation work, where now the content writers were becoming content editors, they were able to produce 10 times as much volume, which greatly reduce costs. But there's also a slight quality difference, right? So if you're producing a lot of SEO content on pages, people are never really going to read like your blog, then these are not a bad place for using content like that.
It's not. However, one thing I'd like to kind of make people once again pay attention to, because there's some science behind this. But no, Google released AI into their algorithm just this last year,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people who, especially people who are into understanding search engine optimization and paying attention to search results, will notice about that same time that duplicate results started popping up on Google. In fact, in some cases, you would see the same company 3 times in a row because the AI had determined that those 3 pages had more value than anybody else's other pages,
Mhm.
even though they came from the same site. If you're using AI to write and Google's using AI to read what you wrote, you know, they're going to recognize each other. You know what I mean? And so eventually it's going to start to dilute the value of Google. It's going to start to dilute the value of search engines. And if there isn't that creative human content writing coming out of it, humans are going to stop using these search engines. And so, once again, it's a great way to get some good content out there, great way to get started on some ideas. But it is really easy to start to identify that this was fully written by AI, you guys. Let's really take some time and massage this a little more.
Yeah, yeah, but can you use it to brainstorm the article idea and then go tweak it and make it sound more like a human wrote it? Yeah.
All day long. And I've even had these guys write the article by hand and then run it back through AI to see if the AI version sounds better.
Uh,
So I mean,
that's
sometimes they're
great.
not fully, they're stuck on how to write a paragraph or how to get it out. And so they'll just put the paragraph in there and it will come back out with a different order that makes more sense.
Yeah, and to be fair, I use we've got a note taker that's listening to this conversation. It's going to write summary notes for me using AI, and then we're going to write summaries for the YouTube video and the podcast using AI. Like it's fantastic at summarizing things too. But again, post edit, right? You need to put a little human touch onto it so it sounds natural and creative and engaging. AI is not the best at writing engaging stuff, I've noticed. Like it tries, but it's almost like a solid A minus a lot of times by itself.
Totally.
Yeah. Hey, Russ, tell me a little bit. So you talked a little bit about comparative analysis. I know this is something you guys have done for a long time.
Yeah.
Big meta analysis, guys, like when you're trying to analyze big chunks of data or rapidly moving pieces, great place for AI to help you with your strategy. Can you share a little bit more about that, Russ? Because you're like the master of this. So I want you to maybe drop a few truth bombs on people.
Yeah. I mean, using AI to do competitive analysis is excellent. You have to tell it what it's comparing though, right?
Mhm.
So you have to know what your main foundations are that you're looking at. Online image has 127 specific factors that we have AI check for. And so what we do is we simply are going to Google, we're going site by site by site, we're taking those 127 items, the AI is lining them out and saying that you need to replicate these behaviors if you're going to be on page 1 of search.
Mhm.
We have our clients have an average of 67% of all their keywords on page 1 of search. It's unreal. I mean, I've got brands with over 300,000 terms in the #1 spot.
That there's a pretty big flex, but I appreciate where you're going with that because it's because you're leveraging these meta-analysis tools. I remember a conversation we had 3 years ago where you told me, Dave, I actually know when Google changes its algorithms because of this analysis you have constantly going on. You're like, oh, that's where
Yeah.
these sites are now shifting to fit page one because of these factors. Let's shift our strategy before anybody else even knows that you can, right?
I mean, RA has been sifting through Google is minimum of 60,000 times a day, as many as 220,000 times a day, just reverse engineering the algorithm almost all day long,
Mhm.
nonstop, just saying what works, what's working now, what's working now, and it does almost. I mean, nothing we're doing here is crazy science behind the sense that we used really good technology for a very basic concept, which is if it's working for everybody else, it should work for me.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Let's talk about so another thing. So this year is tough, right? Because last year, most the general like the lead generation tools were down about 15 to 20%. People are trying to figure out creative ways to get more leads. I know you guys have done a great job leveraging some AI in that area. Do you mind sharing a couple of ideas about how you can use AI for lead gen strategies?
Yeah, so I mean, any of our clients that we're working with, we're constantly going through and trying to study exactly, what their conversion rates are with everything, like how much they have coming through, or what kind of business they have coming through, what slippage there is, and all of that's really, really important to look at, especially when you're working with larger brands.
Mhm.
Um, this year we've got a group who missed about 29% of their emails in a timely manner, to where we lost the deals to their businesses. And so we set up an AI, our voice AI, which is part of our Leashed.ai series. And it's simply, as soon as a call is missed, if somebody calls into the location and the call is missed, the AI assistant calls back. And you guys, it sounds so much like a human. Dave heard it before the show here. It's creepy how well it sounds. And it just simply says, hey, I'm the AI assistant for X brand. I noticed we missed a call from you, and I was calling to see if I could book an appointment for you, if you needed some pricing, or if you need me to have somebody from the office call you back.
Yeah.
More than over half of people are engaging with the AI. At first, it seems like skeptical, and then all of a sudden they realize and start talking to the AI just like they're talking to somebody else.
Mhm.
It's really good at responding. I mean, if the customer says, "Oh, I'm not sure what time that day," it will say, "Oh, no, go ahead, take your time." This AI even has, we've even gotten it tied down to where it will send out DocuSign if that's required by the brand in order to finalize the deal. After they sign the DocuSign, it will call the customer back and ask them if they'd like a secure link text to them or emailed. We're trying to get further down the funnel to help our brands convert more of these leads. Where we used AI to generate the leads, now let's use some AI to help convert more of them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. And it's right because I mean 10 years ago, well, not 10, about 7 or 8 years ago, this like AI generated voice was coming out and it sounded terrible, right? Like it was so obvious. It was like, welcome to the store, Steve. Like it sounded bad, but these tools now have done such a good job emulating emotion and enunciation. And like when we were listening to that before, I was like, yeah, that does sound like a guy. Like just give me a call. Like, oh, gotcha. Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
great. Take a minute. That's all right. Don't worry about it. Like the way it was responding was very natural and better than any I've heard actually so far. So that was pretty cool.
Thank you. No, we've had some really smart teams doing a lot of work on that kind of stuff. Another thing that we've also learned from our AI voice, though, is how much the conversion rate or how well it performs has a lot to do with the market. So just like people have accents in different parts of the country, they also search differently and they respond to things differently.
Mhm.
One of the things we've been able to build into this AI is the ability to have an accent. If we're going to be in Texas, we might have a little bit of a Texas accent. West Virginia is not going to respond to something that doesn't sound like it's somewhat from their market.
Mhm.
And so with that being said, we've also been working on variations and accents and different types of even Spanish English accent, to where we've got kind of that ability to respond back to people in the way that they want to be communicated with. People are creatures of habit. They want things handled their way. And this is just one more way that we're using technology, AI, to get very customized on how we communicate with our clients.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Well, talk to me about so you can use it to set appointments and follow up with customers and things like that. That's powerful and that's scale, right? Because AI, if it's not creating real scale for you, then you're not doing it right. Um, talk a little bit about like predictive behavior analysis. So
Yeah.
yeah, because that you've got some pretty cool resources and ideas around that as well.
Yeah, so we have a franchise development lead generation brand that we work with, and we just actually onboarded a second one. So this will start being released into another brand now, very very soon. But we've had this built into this brand for about a year and a half now. And essentially, when the user is on the customer's website and they're going through, and let's say they're looking at a Del Taco, and then they're looking at a Taco Bell, and now they're looking at maybe a Chick-fil-A. And when it comes to, later, they come back to the site 5 days later, and now all of a sudden they're looking at available areas. And they're looking in Provo, and let's say Ogden, Utah, and Salt Lake City, Utah, right? This analysis is actually going through and immediately making the association that, this person probably wants to buy a fast food restaurant, leaning Hispanic menu, somewhere in the state of Utah, but really willing to move within the Wasatch Front, it seems like, based on their availability they're looking at. We can also look to see that they went through, an affordability calculator to see that, they can actually afford it. So we know that they're somewhat price conscious. And based on that calculator, it gave us some more insight on what they could afford. Our AI is actually taking that information and sending emails to our brokers, letting them know that, hey, you need to recommend these 3 brands, and here is why.
Mhm.
Here's the things you need to say that they showed these behaviors of, and that is going to help you as a human being convert at a higher rate, because you are almost the AI. You're the person who's engaging with them, but just using the tool to help you get there.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff because it's truly buyer intent, but it's live action buyer intent analysis, which is I don't know who else is doing that. I know some people do buyer intent data on meta behaviors, right, which is pretty cool. I mean, if you can couple that into your micro, website engagement strategy, that would be crazy powerful.
Yeah, we're currently working too on on these websites as they're going from page to page. So if they go to this page and they're looking at it, the next page they see is actually already dynamically changing in the background based on what they viewed prior.
Oh
We
wow.
also we also have websites where the content will change and we can actually change kind of the personality profile we're talking to, saying the same thing, but with more of a D personality tone than maybe a C personality tone.
That's pretty cool. I remember back in the day, what was the name of the company? Adobe Bottom, that Josh James's first company. Do you remember that group? They built something similar, which is like a dynamic web experience, but it's very simplistic compared to what you're describing.
No, I haven't. I
Yeah.
mean, we use this. This was used the first time on one of our websites in 2012 with State Farm Insurance, where based on where you were at, we were actually changing the story based on the IP address that was hitting it. We were changing the background header images to show the Wasatch Front if you were in, northern Utah, but maybe the Arches if you're in southern Utah, and literally trying to these real live websites. In fact, back then it was so slow you could actually see the words change in front of your eyes as the page loaded.
Well, yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, Russ, there is, I mean, I think there are a dozen other ways we could discuss, like how can you use AI? Well,
Yeah.
any other insights that you'd recommend that people that are really trying to create scale and leverage AI to generate better ROI in their marketing? What other areas have we not discussed that you think people ought to be thinking about?
I mean, email marketing is one. I mean, finding the right way to respond to emails. I think that's really, really huge. With some of the technologies that are out there, feeding in user behavior, showing the pages maybe you've had, somebody view if they're logged in, being able to send that user back data real time, based on what they've looked at. There's a lot of really cool ways to use AI. AI is also really neat to create kind of a templated setup to where you have the AI maybe grab their stats page from your system and
Mhm.
send them a quick email with just a few updates about that page. Which is one of our automated, we're working on to keep our costs low, to keep things affordable for franchisees. We're working on some automated communication where it's grabbing stats, highlights, and recommendations and sending them this automatically, helping them keep up to date. And then they're having a quarterly call with us instead of a monthly call to make costs
Hmm.
more affordable. Just different things, different ways that we really can use AI. I think it's kind of limitless. Also, as a business owner, I've used it to check my agreements. I've actually ran my terms of service through it and said, what else should I think of? It had 9 really valid suggestions. I
Hmm.
called up my attorney and I said, hey, you might be fired. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, no, but because what AI can do, it'll just go out to the web and search through every single available public document that's in that ilk, and then it'll say, "Oh, well, here are some trends that I found," and in 15 seconds, it's done the same amount of work you'd pay about 20 grand for an attorney's office to do, right? It's not that you can replace the attorneys, but you can certainly leverage it to then again post edit, right? So here's some ideas, skilled professional who has the know-how, like how can we leverage these in my agreements? I think that's pretty
Here's
cool.
one. Yeah, and here's one a little outside of marketing that you can even look at. But if you're a franchisor and you're going through and it's FDD modification season and for a lot of people, is it, have you gone through and asked ChatGPT what is the average cost for local advertising for plumbing companies in their item 6?
Mm.
And really start to get a better idea of what equation is creating the best franchise model. So that's just another really kind of cool way that you get a little deeper into using it for some other things outside of just marketing as well.
Yeah, that's smart. Well, Russ, I know we just got a few more minutes together, but if you don't mind, let's talk about risk factors, just like things to be aware of, because everyone's all excited about ChatGPT and AI, and there are a lot of people out there spewing interesting information that's not super helpful to get attention. How would you caution people, or what are some words of wisdom and warnings people ought to know as they're trying to leverage AI?
I mean, first off, AI is defined. You can ask even AI what it is. It defines itself as a simulation of human intelligence processes. Understand that AI is a simulation of humans and humans are imperfect. Therefore, the AI is imperfect as well. You're not
Mhm.
always going to get a perfect answer. You can ask it the same question 3 different times on 3 different days and get slightly different answers. And so making sure, once again, that we're not just leveraging this, that it's not who we become, but it's a tool that we utilize. I think the biggest thing at this day and age that we have to worry about, though, with AI is not Terminator. It's incompetent children. And so making sure that our kids are understanding as they're growing up, that this isn't a way to do your homework. This isn't a way to walk you through these things. I think that is probably our biggest risk factor with AI today as a society that we need to look at, as well as,
Yeah.
it bleeds down to how we work with our teams as well. So
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Just to reiterate a few things Russ mentioned before as well, like to add to that, uh, everyone loves content, right? But you've got to make sure you're editing it. It's easy to spot. It's real easy to spot Chat GPT generated content, guys. So put your own personal spin to it. Give yourself some personality. You can actually try to infuse that into the content's being generated too by giving it a voice, but make sure you're also tweaking it, making it sound natural. And even the graphics, I don't know, man. Like I've played around with some of the graphic generators. They're not that great. There's a long way to go before they actually generate really good stuff. But I think that you also need to be paying attention to it, and you need to be using it so you're fluent in AI. Because if you're not, somebody's going to scale around you pretty fast by leveraging it before you do. So stay in tune with it.
yeah, I mean, I'd even throw out one last thing to close on some other ways I've used it personally, because AI to me has been a tool above and beyond. So my oldest son is getting married here in September, and I'm in charge of catering. And I wasn't sure what to ask when I was calling caterers. I don't know. I've never done this. This is my first child who's getting married. AI gave me an excellent list. I got on the phone with the caterers, and they could tell that I knew what I was talking about. Little did they know, ChatGPT knew what I was talking about.
It's a great example of ways you can leverage it more. And I find it interesting because the younger folks want to say, well, I just asked Chat GPT and it told me how to ask a girl out on a date. And I was like, uh, what did it say? And then they tell me, I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever do that. That sounds really dumb, but okay. Like, so you have to be careful too. Like, you put your filters on, because it might have given you 15 ideas and you knew 6 of them probably weren't good, but the 9 that you used saved the day. Like, it's really powerful.
Super.
Yeah. Russ, I appreciate you. You've been fantastic. Thanks for dumping some insights. Best way for people to get in touch with you, how should they reach out if they want to pick your brain?
I mean, email is a great way to reach out to me, Russell, Russell at onlineimage.com. I'm happy to chat with anybody. If anybody wants to have just a fun conversation around AI and check out what things are out there, I'd love to have that talk. And I really appreciate you having me on, Dave. I love talking about this stuff. I am passionate about it. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to share it with your listeners.
Yeah, well, you've been great. Thanks again, Russ.
Thank you.